When you sell or buy a house, it's very emotional. It's a very big purchase. It's something that they've saved up for years. It could be their first house, their third house, that either they're, wanting something bigger to grow their family in or downsizing because their kids are going to college. It's very emotional. And I love being a part of that roller coaster because I get to see every emotion. They're happy, they're upset, it didn't work out, but we always find a way and we always get to the closing table and they're just like, okay, this is good.
Welcome to the In the Arena podcast. My name is Jared Miguez, a co-host on this podcast that brings you the inspiring stories of our clients who are leaders and innovators across different industries in Southeast Louisiana. They are visionary entrepreneurs, savvy real estate professionals, media creators, military business owners, and community champions. And we are going to showcase the remarkable achievements and share their personal stories. Tune in for insightful conversations, valuable lessons, and motivational stories that are going to reveal their secrets to success and offer you insights to help you on your own path. Welcome to In the Arena podcast.
Welcome to the show today. We're excited. We've got Rachel here with us, and I'm excited for the conversation we're going to have. Jared, go ahead and tell folks a little bit more about Rachel.
Yeah, we've known each other for a long time. We're both from Alexandria, which there's not a lot of Alexandria people around here, so we've got that common bond, which is funny because like most people really don't know what it's like. I mean, I make fun of my partner from Slidell, saying it's like pretty much being from Chalmette, and she gives me a hard time about it. But nothing wrong with Chalmette and Slidell. Neither one of them are as bad as Alexandria. So like,
right.
I literally just got back from being in Columbus, and while I was there, I met someone who was from Alexandria, and my first response, it was random. My first response was, "I'm sorry."
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, because they're like, "Yeah, I lived in." I think she worked at like a P&G had something there or something like that.
Clico, big. Yeah. That's like the big thing in Alexandria.
Yeah, I was going to say she worked there for like 7 years. She's like, "That's my experience with Louisiana." I'm like, "I'm sorry." Like,
There's better places out there.
sorry.
I say that too. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, oh, you know the struggle. Like, it's it's not fun.
Sure.
I go see my grandmother, and then I leave. Yeah. So I know you as Rachel North. Pronounce your last name?
Ribushi.
Yeah, Rachel North Ribushi.
Yes.
You work for Katie Realty, and you've been in the real estate business for how long?
Since 2018, so
About
6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
Very cool. Mm-hmm. And so you started out in Lafayette, working for Katie Realty. You moved over here 2021, and since then you've done $12 million in real estate sales. And one of your main goals here is to expand the Katie brand on the North Shore. I know you're passionate about that.
Yes.
And we'll get into Katie Realty in a few minutes. But you have 5 agents that work for you now. You serve for the North Shore Area Board of Realtors, Neighbor Board of Realtors, and you're a part of the Covington Business Association, Professional Women of St. Tammany, the Chamber of Commerce, North Shore Business Club, which that one I've never heard of, and Women's Council of Realtors, which are all big in the community because I know that's important to you. So let's talk about your journey in the real estate world. So we talked a little about this a second ago. You started out in Lafayette, and so how did you get into the game?
I was working as a kickboxing instructor, personal trainer, and I thought that's what I wanted to do. I graduated in exercise science and thought I wanted to do that. But the schedules are just very different and it's just very demanding. So I was working from like 3:30 in the morning till 1 in the afternoon and then going to bed and just repeating that whole thing. And while I was working there, I didn't like how I didn't have freedom. Like I couldn't just leave and go to like Walgreens to go grab something if I needed it. And I would just always think like, okay, I know I want to have a family. I want to have a job to where like I can set my schedule and I can have freedom because I want to go to like their soccer practice or something at school, or if they're sick, I want to pick them up. So someone recommended real estate and I just looked into it and then became obsessed with it and then just dove in.
Yeah, I think that's kind of your personality. When you get hooked on something, you dive into it.
Yes, obsessed.
Which that fitness, the people in the fitness world, Courtney was in the fitness world at one point.
Believe it or not, yep.
I did the same thing. My brother is an exercise physiology major too. And it's just hard to make a living in that world because you're on the clock, you're paid hourly, and if you don't have a client, you're not getting unless
you have 7 different jobs, then it's hard to make money. Yeah, but then you have no time.
And then on top of that, with the internet and all that, like it's like the in-person stuff's hard. The internet stuff is different. And I used to be a CrossFit instructor for years. And at one point they came to me to invest in the CrossFit, and I just was like, like, because ultimately, again, even investing in it, a lot of people, it's a model that most people have as a passion project, and it's not very profitable. I mean, we've seen a few people take it to different levels, like Alex Hormozy, but like he's obviously rare in some ways, but you know, but that's that. And so, but most people are chasing freedom and peace. It's that ability to be able to do what you want when you want, and you know,
And real estate gives you that. However, you've got to build structure around it, right?
Yes.
If you can't build structure around your schedule as a real estate professional, you're not going to be successful because you go from some places that's very rigid and very strict about your hours, and then you go to the real estate world where there's nobody that's watching over your shoulder, right? So one of the things we talked about is your mentors. And I think that's going to kind of translate into where you're at now in Katie Realty. So tell me about your mentorship and how Mr. Jim Keedy has made an impact on your career.
I mean, if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't still be in real estate because real estate's hard.
It is.
It's really hard. It's not like, oh, I'm going to go show a house today and then look pretty and, post on Instagram. Like, most of my time is spent on the phone in my office.
Yeah.
And then that's how you get the business.
Yeah.
And there's no one there to tell you, like, hey, you need to make 100 phone calls today. And if you don't make it, you don't get paid. Like, you don't get paid regardless. You're your own boss. You have to motivate yourself.
Right.
So to have a very tight-knit group and a broker who isn't selling, he's just there to motivate you and make sure that you make money and that you're happy and you love what you're doing, and to hold constant trainings and to make you feel accountable, like to hold you accountable. That was huge. Like, I wouldn't be as successful if it wasn't for him and his whole culture that he's created.
Yeah. So tell us about Katie Realty. Where is it located and what's y'all's plans next?
So Katie Real Estate, we're based out of Lafayette. They've been there for 15 years. And then I expanded Katie Real Estate to the North Shore back in August of 2021.
Oh, a fun time in real estate.
Oh, it was so fun. It was just the best time. So I bought a house over here, and then we found an office, and I was just ready to hit the ground running. So I did everything possible. I joined the chamber, the Covington Business Association, all these other groups just to meet people, because I knew not one person here. Well, it's you and like a few people, but
sure.
I had to do what I had to do to get the name out there. So, right now we have our office in downtown Covington. Love that location.
It's a great location.
It's great. Like, people can just kind of like walk past our office and stumble upon it. That's what we wanted.
Yeah.
So we have that, and then we're in the process of hiring agents. We just really want to grow.
Yeah.
I want to create what we have in Lafayette over here, just a family-friendly, just company.
Yeah.
So
I mean, when you walk in the office in Lafayette, you definitely get the vibe of being able to you feel comfortable, like you can walk in the door and you're part of the family or the culture right when you walk in the door. The furniture to the artwork to the people that walk around. It's definitely a culture where it's not stuffy and it's not corporate. It's not the typical structure you get when you walk into a real estate office. It is its own unique brand, and I think that I think y'all are doing a good job of doing that here. And the more people hear about you and know about Katie Realty, they're going to be excited to be a part of the group.
Well, one of the things I can respect is that when you got here, you're like, hey, I'm new to the area. You're like, you went and immersed yourself in the local associations, like the chamber and whatnot, because it's part of that is so many, you get to meet local business owners, you get to meet, local advocates, like whatever those roles look like. And that's huge because so many people, move to a new location, a new quote unquote market, and they're just like, my old things are going to, basically my old tricks are going to work here. But it's so much of this business is relationship based.
Yes.
And so you jumped right into relationships. And so I love that because, I mean, that's huge. I mean, so many people, you can be highly skilled in another market and then you come here, and if you do not develop relationships, you're not going to find traction. Period.
Exactly. You have to have the conversations and meet the people and connect and be genuine. And I've definitely found that over here.
That's awesome.
This town is definitely for that. Like,
Yes.
you can't come here and not be humble
No.
and add value. But if you do those two things and you work hard, people are going to open you with open arms. Man,
Yes.
I've found that just moving to the North Shore and just getting to know people and being yourself, surrounding yourself with people that have similar values that you do. I mean, I think that knowing you and your family growing up, like, this is a place where we can thrive once we get our name out there and continue to add value. So.
Well, and that's something to be said because there's some markets that are like the good old boys club, like basically the people who've basically been in the business for a while. It's like, oh, I can't compete with them.
Right.
No, that's not this place. It's like you can come in, you can develop relationships and you can get traction. And I mean, obviously if you're doing the fundamentals, but part of that is relationships. And so one of the things you said about Katie is that you guys are looking to hire agents. Talk to us about what does that look like for you guys? Because I know sometimes brokerages can kind of have like an open door policy where it's just like, hey, we're always welcoming new agents. Like we're like basically we want everyone to come. And so what does that look like for you guys, and how are you guys different?
We're different because we have an amazing training program. So we go through a training hiring process. So all the agents, we, sit around the table and we just kind of ask different questions, like what motivates you? What made you want to choose real estate? Just get to know that person and see if they fit into the culture. And if it's a good fit, then, we have something called Smart Academy, and it's this online 70-hour program, and it's something that Jim put together and Tommy, and it's everything you need to know about real estate, because once you finish your test and you go to a brokerage, they're like, here you go, here's your desk, have fun. And you're like, well, how do I write a contract? What about inspections? Like, what's the step? And it breaks it down, and it's all these videos, and it tells you like what steps to take. You start from the buyer side. Like, what do you do when you have that first conversation with the buyer until you're at the closing table? Same thing for a seller. What do you do? What conversations do you have? What process do you go through inspections to the closing table? And that's very, very helpful, because
it is.
That's
awesome.
huge. So I've actually, I'm not an agent, but I've actually taken the class and gone through it. I just chose not to go get licensed. And you cannot take what you learn on that and go operate from it.
No.
I mean, apart from meets and bounds and stuff like that being, a huge part of the test or whatever. But no, it's not. It's highly technical, but it's not necessarily easily practical in the sense of like, the business side. And I think that's huge, because a lot of people, again, they think, hey, let me go get my license and then the money's going to start rolling in. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
So that course, is it, it's like interactive? I mean, do you have to answer questions? Do you get held accountable by the team, or is it just like, hey, this is 70 hours that you can get, or is that part of a requirement of being on the team?
There's probably, about 70 hours, and then there's maybe 110 different videos, and you have to take quizzes after each different portions.
That's awesome.
So that way you
brilliant.
are learning. Well,
it's regurgitation. It's like, hey, let's just, because you get some people who listen to something on like 2 times speed, and it's like they're also ADHD, so then they're also doing, watching Netflix, or they're doing whatever.
Exactly.
But you want to say, hey, are you retaining this?
Yes.
And no, that's huge, because it sounds like you guys are like, first of all, you're want to make sure people are a good fit for your culture, but then you also want to say, hey, we want to make sure you're well equipped.
Yes.
We're adding value to the real estate industry in general.
Yes, for sure. We don't want to have agents who are just, don't have an expectation of what to do, or they just don't know what to expect, because it is a lot of work, and we don't want to just send them out there not knowing what they're doing. So
especially with the y'all's brand on their, underneath their name.
Yeah. Exactly. For sure.
And as a manager, I mean, I can imagine knowing that my agents are going to start with 70 hours of coursework under their belt, as opposed to a brand new agent coming out. And that's got to make it almost not easier, but it's got to be almost.
It's a baseline.
Well, for you as somebody who's recruiting, it's a tool you can use to sell the brokerage, one, but also when you're going to be able to, as a producing agent and a manager, you have more freedom to be able to go produce your own business and have somebody who's starting from, first base instead of starting from zero.
Well, that's why Jim created it, because he would do these scenarios. So that's what it was called, scenario. So it was 10 days. So as soon as you had your license and you signed on with Katie Real Estate, you had 10 days of scenarios with Jim, like a one-on-one. And he would teach you all these things, like how to respond during contracts and inspections. So as we grew, he got busier and he needed to use his time more wisely. So that's why they created the video, so he can go help recruit in Lafayette and, mentor and do all the things he needed to do. And now we can use that over here at our other office. So it's been great. And then it also kind of helps not weed out, but like if people are like, no, I'm not doing that. Like
if they're not committed to it. Yeah.
Yes, because we want full-time agents, not, part-time who just sell a house here and there. Like, we want this to be your career and support you to do that.
Well, I think that's huge, because a lot of times how you do one thing is how you do everything. If someone's like, oh, I'm not going to go get myself into this, then it's like, okay, then you're also not going to prospect.
Yes.
You're also not going to do, X, Y,
the
X,
hard
Y, Z.
work.
The hard work. And that's huge. Staying power is half of the equation, right? It's not just getting in and doing it. But the other part, Jim Rohn, who's been one of my biggest motivational, I guess, mentors, although I've never met him, I just listened to his stuff. He said that success is not it's not one catalytic event. It is showing up every single day doing the fundamentals.
Yes.
And a lot of that is, first of all, showing up and saying, first of all, learning, right? And then it's taking those fundamentals and going and applying them. And that's huge. A lot of people don't want to do that. They think it's one like mysterious or catalytic event where it's like, I don't know, HGTV doesn't show this, right?
No.
Or Bravo, whatever, they don't show this, that it's like, it's the fundamentals. It's you making the phone calls, doing the paperwork, whatever it needs to happen to get it done.
Yes, absolutely. HGTV and Bravo is just ruined it. I mean, they
I
make
don't
it
even,
look...
I can't watch them. I can't
I
bring
can't
myself to
either.
it.
I really can't. I cannot do the
Selling
Selling Sunset.
is legitimate. That's the realest way of selling real estate.
I can't even watch it because there's no real estate involved. I'm like, this is drama, and y'all look fake. I don't want this.
I
can't
can't
do it.
I've yet to flip a house in 30 minutes like a TV show does, you know?
Right.
But at the same time, also, I'm just like,
We've closed a deal in 24 hours.
yeah, it's a little bit.
That's made for TV.
Yeah, no.
It was not.
Although-
it was not good TV.
Yeah, no, although I do joke and say, like, with social media, I joke and say, look, my stories are great stories for social media because people love the crap I get into, but that's neither here nor there.
Let's talk about social media. I mean, video is a big deal, not just training for Katie, but also, is it Katie or Katie?
Katie.
Katie, okay, I'm saying it the right way.
Katie. People call it Katie. Sometimes Jim will say Katie. Just
Katie. You know,
That's funny.
it's like when
real
people
estate.
call me Frickle. I'm like, not really, but okay.
Not quite.
yeah.
Well, okay, so you're mentioning the training videos and how he was able to say, hey, this information is important, let's put it out there. But it can be time consuming to teach that much curriculum. And so he, in essence, cloned himself by filming it, right? Which is huge. And so, but social media is the same way. We get to clone ourselves, where we get to either showcase, whether, our skill sets, we get to talk about how we help someone, or like a project, a property, whatever that looks like. So how are you utilizing social media these days?
I use it to educate, to promote listings, to find buyers, to help sellers, and just promote my brand.
I think it's important. A lot of people, they're like, I don't have time for it. But in the same way, whenever you're like, hey, I got here, I didn't know anyone, but on the opposite side, people didn't know you.
Yeah.
And so it's huge to say, hey, this is who I am, and I want people to know me, think of me, stay front of mind, all of that. It's huge.
Yes.
For people who bypass social media, I think that they are, number one, it's a pride thing where they're like, oh, I don't need that.
Right.
I'm like, no, that's where the people are.
Yes.
Right? Like, you got to go where
Everybody is on their phones, scrolling
Everyone.
at one platform or another. So why are you not on there?
it's, as Gary Vee called it in his most recent book, it's the day trading attention. It's like, you got to go where the attention is.
Yes.
Right? Like, you've got to go where the eyes are. And, it's critical.
Let's just talk about how y'all use social media for value to agents. Because y'all have a full service. It's not like y'all are just taking your phone out. Y'all have like full service, legitimate production going on over there. I mean, like, your videos are high quality.
Yes.
They're almost as good as Lettuce Media's videos. But
Almost.
yeah. Let's talk about that. So I mean, I think from what I know about you guys, y'all have access to a full production team.
Yep, a full production team, Media Engage. And so Tommy Rosario, he's the videographer and just the brains behind everything. So we have access to these videos so we can have these beautiful branding videos for new listings, for branding videos for yourself, different tidbits. So like what I started doing was just like sitting down one-on-one and giving like my experience with certain situations, stories about real estate, how to educate a buyer, before they even want to start looking for houses, what the steps you need to do. So education is like huge. I want to give as much advice for anyone, because when people are searching, like I do feel like buyers Google, like, how do I buy a home? Like, what do you do? So my video, I'd like for that to pop up and just help people and just start that conversation. So we do have that. And I love that we have that access for Katie Real Estate, because I'm very bougie and I like my videos to look really good. And I don't want to just do it on my phone. So I want to use a professional.
There's no doubt you have high quality videos.
Yes.
And so that I feel like adds a lot of value to the real estate agents.
So the agents in your office, let's just say you guys hire someone They move to y'all's brokerage. They've got access to that just as much as you do.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's huge because a lot of people, like, is it a part of it? Is it an extra expense for them?
It's an extra expense.
Extra expense.
Yes.
But here's the thing is, and which is still fine, but a lot of people say, well, I want to do it, but then they're like, they either, they're like, I don't know who to choose, like, third party person.
Right.
Or they're like, but whenever you say, hey, this is like, here's the path to it.
Yes.
There's three things people say. They say they don't know how, they get nervous to do it, and they think it's too expensive. And so by having it in-house for somebody, the purpose of having the media company for us is that we're going to show people that it's not difficult. Well, we have everything set up for you. You can walk in the door. It doesn't have to be expensive, but you got to do it cost effectively, and that we're going to make you feel comfortable enough to be able to do it in front of the cameras. First time you did video was not, it was probably, you're probably nervous.
It was horrible.
Yeah, it wasn't fun.
No.
And then, but now you've done it so many times, it gets more comfortable at it. And your sister's on TV.
Yes, she was a news anchor.
That's right. I don't know why I was going to say you were on TV at one point, but I knew that was Natalie.
So for my first video, I remember calling her and I was like, give me tips. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm so nervous. And she was just like giving me advice on, what to say, how to hold yourself, what to wear, things like that. So that was fun to do.
I'm curious her news anchor voice.
It's very generic.
Yeah.
It's
okay.
amazing. It's
Yeah.
just,
I've
she'll
never
do
heard
it.
her on the so just so you know, me and Natalie, her older sister, were the same age and growing up. So like I knew her really well. You're how much younger than a couple years?
2 years younger.
2 years. Okay, yeah.
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 So I knew her really well, and then we've met a couple of times and growing up. Then you're the same age as Josh, I think, my second brother.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we know each other.
I'm just in my head. Have you ever seen like the I don't want to call them memes or whatever, people on social media who are news anchors, like in real life, they're like, I'm here at the grocery store and,
Yes.
whatever. Anyway,
Yes.
so I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
So now is she involved with you guys? I don't think I know that.
No.
No. Okay.
No. She's
And
still
then-
in Alexandria.
No. Okay. So
Bless her
she's,
soul.
so you knew from there.
Yeah. She's still there.
Doing the news for there, right?
Yeah, I guess.
She was, yeah. She stopped working for KLB and she's owns part of the yoga studio over there, and she's just, kind of full blown into the kids right now because they're involved in everything. So she's busy with that.
So speaking of kids, you've got a soon to be 10-month-old.
Yes. I
And
do.
so how has that been juggling that with being an agent, manager, all
hard
those
as
things?
shit. It is
That's real
so
talk.
hard. It's so hard. And I was thinking about this the other day. Like when I was pregnant, I would just go back to seeing these women who were in real estate and they had babies, and they would post pictures of themselves like in the hospital bed, on the computer, like writing a contract before labor. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I could do that. Like, no, that was not my experience.
That was the last thing on your mind.
That was the last thing on my mind from the moment she was born. Like, everything changed. Like, it was so different. Like, I tried to do it, but there has to be a balance. There has to be a routine. There has to be time blocking, because you can't just be like, oh, okay, I'll, if she's napping at this time, then I'll, do emails. Like, no, if it's not time blocked, it's not happening. And it took 6 months for me to figure out what I was doing.
Sure, it's a new phase of your life.
It was, and it's so different. It's so hard. And my family's not from here. So we had our sitter to come help us a few days a week, but it was a lot of my husband and I doing that. So trying to figure out a good schedule, trying to figure out how to get back into work was really hard. But we started her in daycare at 6 months, and that's been amazing. And she loves it. We love it. And I've gotten back a routine. I'm back in the office and back to time blocking and doing what I know and what I love. But it was hard. So those past 6 months, I really didn't do much. And so you know how it's all of a pipeline.
Yeah.
Like when you start working, your work will show 3 months later.
Yep.
So now's the time I'm really, really hustling, because I did take that 6 month break.
Yeah.
So I'm back in it full force and still balancing everything, trying to the best I can.
and you're learning it. It's I'm not a parent myself, but it's learning how to do this with a, you're in a different phase. And so now you have different things vying for your attention.
Yes.
And so, but at the end of the day, as with any business, it's, hey, how can you time block? How can you manage? How can you leverage all those things? And so, no, I think that's important. So talk to us about what is one of your favorite parts of what you do.
My favorite part is meeting new people, because the buyers and sellers, when you sell or buy a house, it's very emotional. It's a very big purchase. It's something that they've saved up for years, It could be their first house, their third house, that either they're, wanting something bigger to grow their family in or downsizing because their kids are going to college. It's very emotional. And I love being a part of that roller coaster because I get to see every emotion. They're happy, they're upset, it didn't work out, but we always find a way and we always get to the closing table and they're just like, okay, this is good. Like, they're happy. They sold their house or they bought a house. I love being a part of that. And I tell my clients all the time, like after the closing, I'll text them like, I miss you. Like we used to talk every day. We would send houses to each other all the time. Like it's just, it's such a great relationship. And I stay in touch with my clients as much as possible because you form this relationship. It's not just a client, it's friends and family.
Exactly. That's the key. Like a lot of people think of their client, they have current clients and past clients, but the reality is that if you really pay attention, everybody is a client all the time.
Yes.
You just have some active clients that are buying and selling now, but everybody should continue to be your client. You should treat them that way.
Yeah.
Because everybody knows 7 people are going to buy a house every year.
Yeah.
If you treat them that way and you build relationships with them and know how to ask the right questions, you'll find opportunities to help them with real estate in some form or fashion. Yeah. And you're going to you'll get 5, 6, 7 deals out of that person over their lifetime instead of one deal having to chase them down and get other ones. And most agents don't treat their business that way.
No.
And so, that's a big deal.
I would even argue that it goes into every business and every industry. So one of my biggest mentors has been investing since 1965. He's in his mid 70s and he's still an active investor. I was just with him this past week. I actually been with him before that. I was in Tampa with him where he lives. And one of the biggest lessons I ever learned from him, he said, Courtney, the biggest thing, the most important thing you get out of any transaction is not the asset. So not the house that I just bought. It is the ally. The person who, sold it to you, the person on the other side. And for example, he has done 78 transactions with 4 families.
Oh my gosh.
Just over the years. So while we were in Columbus, he leans over and he's got a friend who he has done 2 deals with in the past. Found out that he was going to pass away. He just got bad health news that he's gearing up to pass away. He's older. And he said, he literally sent him an email. He said, Pete, from those deals we did together, I want you to come and help. I have my remaining portfolio, which is like 15 properties. I want to sell them all to you because I know you'll take care of my family and my kids. As like a last minute estate planning, the kids don't want any of the properties, but he wanted the income stream to go to them. So he was going to structure a creative financing setup that like the kids can be taken care of. And here he is, close to his deathbed. So now Pete's, he was flying back home. I just got home last night from Ohio. He was flying home to where this week now he's structuring to go to do those 15 deals with him. And that all came from staying in touch from those deals that he did with him in the 80s.
Wow.
1980s. He hasn't,
it goes
they haven't
a long
done
way.
Yeah. But here's the thing is, and so I get convicted because I'm like, there's people I bought houses from 8 years ago that I need to get reacquainted with. So every time I hear that, I'm like, always work to do.
Yeah.
But it's huge.
It is. And I recently hired someone to help me with my social media. And she also helps with my newsletter and emails and just staying in touch with my clients because that is a full-time job in itself, staying in touch with your clients.
Staying in front of mine. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. And so she will, write a monthly newsletter and like put information about me and my family and then, the newest hot listing and just, if you want to know what your interest rate is or what your, what is it? Not your interest rate. What like today's interest rate is. Yeah, your value of your home. Things. Yes. So she does that. And that's really been very helpful because they see the email and whether it's like a value to them or not, they see my name. And I got this one phone call like 2 weeks ago of a client I helped a year ago. And she was like, oh my God, I can't believe you have a baby now. It looks so good. But just a phone call. Like that's all I wanted, just to say hello. Yeah. Like it doesn't have to be a sale or transaction, just to like keep that connection. I love that.
No, I enjoy that. I frequently bought from older individuals and they sometimes frequently butt dial me. And I'm like, well, it's great talking to you anyway. Let's talk. Oh, I didn't mean to call you, Courtney.
Yeah.
But even if it's just a phone call, I appreciate that touch. It's funny. I bought some properties from a guy and it took forever for the county in Mississippi to transfer. Like he was getting the tax bill and it was like 3 years later. And so our yearly phone call, and again, it should have been more than that in my mind, but it was, hey, I got the tax bill again. I'm like, I have asked them 17 times to change it. Hey, how are you doing?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, whether it's, the the little things like, hey, I saw that you have a kid now, right?
Yes.
And I think that's huge. It's showing up as a human, right?
Yes.
So what's your schedule for social media? Do you have like a plan for your social media in your business?
Yes. So my marketing girl, Heather, she posts 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So like Monday, it'll be a video that I have with like either a title attorney, a lender, or a home inspector. I actually did some with Nick, but he refuses. He won't let me post any because he said he looks fat, so we have to retake
my
them.
gosh. Come
I
on,
know.
dude.
You would think I would be the one saying that, but so I'll post that, and then on Wednesday she'll either do like a post of like just a photo, like I take photos in houses, and it's just if you want to keep your towels white in the bathroom, tips.
Yeah.
And then Friday it's always a house, a new listing that just hit the market, whether it's my listing or another listing here in the community.
Very cool. And so you're like consistently doing that every single week.
Yes.
It's so funny how people take social media as a perspective or a way to kind of gauge on how successful somebody is.
Yeah.
I get people regularly be like, man, y'all are killing it. You're on social media all the time. I'm like, the bar is so low.
Yes.
To just post consistently.
Yes.
If you post consistently, you're going to get attention from people. I mean,
Yes.
there's no
I
doubt.
forget what the statistics are for like podcasts, right? So we're on a podcast here, which will be a form of social media, right? I forget there's like hundreds of thousands of podcasts, and there's like so many of them have never done more than one episode. And then there are so many of them that are not current. Like maybe they did 5 episodes, but now they're not producing anymore.
Right.
And so it's huge. A lot of people are like, oh, it's oversaturated. Everyone has a podcast. I'm like, yeah, but how many people actively do it?
Right.
Right. And so the same thing with social media. For me, I don't necessarily have a schedule. I wish I was a little bit more organized with that. But my thing is I post every day. And so sometime it's 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, oh shit, but
Yeah.
so again, it could be more routine, but most people say, oh, well, I posted 3 times. It doesn't work. No. That's not what we're talking about.
Right.
And so that's huge.
So what's your
Consistency.
mindset around social media? Because I get in my own head sometimes. I'll look at it and I'll be like, I got 3 likes on that video or 2 comments. How do you gauge success on social media?
When people say, when they come up to me and they're like, oh my God, I saw your video. That looks awesome. Or, hey, I didn't know, like that house you posted, that is so nice. I love it. When they tell me, when they see me, like that's all. Because on social media, you can look so busy. Like I'm selling so many houses, I'm doing all this. But in reality, I probably only had one closing that month. So when they see how busy I am, I'm like, okay, great. They're seeing it. So when they think of real estate, they'll think of me and then hopefully use me to buy or sell.
Yeah,
That's exact.
One
That
of
was
my
my
favorite
second.
stories is, do you remember Kirk Savoy from high school? So he was one of my buddies that I grew up with. I hadn't seen him in like 10 years, and I went back to our 10-year high school reunion, which was almost 10 years ago now. Which is kind of sad thing about it. But he came up to me. He was like, "Hey man, when I buy my next house, I'm gonna call you." I'm like, "How do you have any clue to call me?" He was like, "Oh, I saw some of your stuff on social media. This was 10 years ago. It wasn't that long ago. It was like 7 or 8 years ago. But that long ago that we were posting, and he remembered and saw me. I mean,
It makes that
was
association.
it was a moment where it clicked in my head. It's like, okay, this stuff really works. You just got to post. And he never one time liked, commented, nothing on any of my stuff, but he clearly was watching it because he knew what I was doing.
Well, it's huge. That was my exact answer too. Like, what would it be? It's when people mention it.
Yes.
And they're not like, so like this weekend when I was in Ohio speaking, someone came up and they were like, I'm so happy to like meet you in real life, but I feel like I know you because I follow you. But they never comment. They never they're not. And so there's so much of that. And I think people have to get over, it's not about the likes or views or whatever. It's because it's impact. It's that staying front of mind. I have done a number of business off of social media, and it's with people again that are not engaging my stuff, but they're digesting it, right? And it's like the consumption of it is huge, and that's really that's really the goal, is to give them valuable things to consume, to be our authentic self, show up and be our authentic self, so that people can say, this is who I want to like, know, and trust and do business with, right? Like those things matter.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
So you talked about a minute ago that your favorite part of the real estate business is the buyer side. So talk about the buyer's business and how you get business and what you do to service your clients, why you like it so much.
I like helping the buyers, and because it's I like that schedule. It's they need to figure out exactly what they need. Once they get pre-approved, then it's like, okay, let's go, let's ready, and they're excited and they want to see all these houses, and It's very smooth until, we go under contract. Things always happen. But it's my job to just soften the blow if anything does happen. And I've done this, for 6 years now, that I feel like I have a good idea of how to approach situations, how to put fires out, and not alarm my buyers if anything wrong happens. So that's something I've been fortunate to do. And then I find buyers because we have like our lead system, Boomtown. So we have people looking online, pay for these leads. We call them if they're looking in this area. But that's a lot of the phone calls I make. Like, hey, Ronnie, I saw that you were looking at a 3-bed, 2-bath in Covington. Are you open to 4 bedrooms? Like just starting that conversation.
Yeah.
I also call neighborhoods. So I just call neighborhoods because I do have buyers and sometimes we can't always find listings.
Oh, nice.
So I'll call just random neighborhoods and say, hey, look, I have a buyer wanting to be in this neighborhood. Have you thought about selling, or do you know of any neighbors who are selling? And, I get a lot of no's or hung up on, but then there I get a lot of like, you know what, I have thought about that. Yeah, what are they looking for? We start that dialogue, and whether it works for my buyer or not, these people are looking to sell. So then I'm helping those people as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
No, I think that's great. And it's one of those things, taking the initiative, right? Hey, okay, if the inventory is not there,
Yes, I will
then
find it.
let me find it.
Yes.
And again, not everyone's wanting to go that extra mile,
No.
right? Everyone.
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, and that's why the extra mile is lonely.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot less people on it. So, no, that's I love that. What would you say your superpower is in the industry?
Listening. I'm a very good listener. So when it comes to buyers, I listen to what they want. What's the most important thing for them?
Yeah.
Whether it's, being in a neighborhood or close to the kid's school, or, the type of house that they want. And same for sellers. Sellers, they want what they want. I try to be as very empathetic as possible and just let them unload. And I'm here to listen because I just take a lot from that.
Yeah.
And
It comes with being a mom too.
yeah.
Being able to listen.
Yeah.
Well,
and I've always been like that. Like my best friend, she's like, I know I can come to you if I ever need to vent because you'll just listen. I'm not one to just jump and interject and say my experience, but I like to absorb and listen because everybody needs that.
Good for you.
Listening's a skill set. I'm not going to comment,
Oh.
but listening is a skill set,
It
and
is.
people don't realize that. They think, "Oh, well, yeah, I listen." Like, no. Do you listen?
Yes.
Because a huge part there is so many things people are saying, but they're not saying it, or people sometimes hear what they want to hear, right? And so it's not necessarily a skill set. So many times have people told me one thing, but they really were looking for another. I said, hey, so what I'm hearing is that you may, but people are very so in a lot when I deal with sellers, it's like, you can understand, I call them value drivers. People's value drivers, it's the thing that they care the most about because they repeat it or they keep coming back to it. And it's like, that's where I know that's the hill they're going to die on. And so some people it may be price, some people it may be, I've had it, I can give 100 scenarios where it's like when we understand what their value driver is, that's where we know we can get a workable deal. Because if we can show up in that value driver, because some people, if they're unrealistic, or whatever, if you can't find what they actually value, they're not going to pull the trigger. They're not going to do the thing. Right. And so I think it's huge. At least in my experience, it's been.
How much time do you spend in Lafayette?
Oh, I wish I could spend more. I miss it a lot.
Yeah.
We've probably, since the baby was born, we've probably gone back 4 times.
Gotcha. So you're doing most of your business here. You're not doing a ton of business in Lafayette anymore.
Nope.
Okay.
I still keep up with all my clients because I refer that business out. And that's still a lot of my friends and family. So
that's your system right now. You have a deal in Lafayette. You have somebody. And do you have a couple people, or do you have somebody in Lafayette you send most of your work to?
I have a couple people. It
Gotcha.
depends on the situation, depends on the personality, the family.
Yeah.
I want it to be a perfect match. I don't want it to just be one person, one size fits all.
How long did you spend time in Lafayette? How long did you live in Lafayette?
11 years.
You were there for 11 years. Wow. Okay. So you went to UL, and then a couple of years after college, obviously you stayed there, and
Yep.
And you worked at. How long were you out of college before you started in real estate?
3.5 years.
Okay. I guess that makes
Almost
sense.
4 years.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm not going to correct you, but isn't it ULL?
I don't know. Is there like a thing in Lafayette?
There's so many. There's
Yeah.
UL. There's ULL.
Yeah.
SLU.
The older people say,
SLU.
and then USI,
USL.
USL, and then before that it was like something institute.
I heard a thing that LSU paid or did something to where they have to have it at ULL because University of Louisiana versus Louisiana State University. It's like
Yeah.
some people could confuse the two.
Yeah.
And
It's fun. I mean, like I don't know how much.
not to be semantics, but
I don't have-
Yes,
I heard
no,
that. I
you're-
read
you
that
are
or heard that
correct,
recently.
Because I feel like people from Lafayette just say UL because it just rolls off the tongue, or people who know it. But I think it is ULL.
Yeah.
I mean,
I read that somewhere and I was like, but it goes to the point that LSU was paying enough attention that they're fighting to protect their
Yeah.
brand. They're like,
Yeah.
yeah.
well, that, but also UL. I mean, but if you're from, so I have family from Lafayette, and so we go there all the time. My grandfather and my aunts and uncles still live there, and like people are like they're still LSU fans, but like they're passionate about UL football games.
Yes.
It's like the only.
Raging Cajuns.
It's
Yes.
the only stadium. I don't know if they still let you do this, but you can come out at halftime, go out and tailgate in the parking lot at halftime, and then go
That's
back in and watch more football. Is that right?
Not anymore.
I about to say, and when I was in college, they would let you leave the game and go back in halfway through the game.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I also did in college, and so I didn't tailgate college football games or anything like that. So I don't, but that sounds wild.
It's wild.
Yeah, we want UL is a good time.
Yes.
I mean, it's one of the most down to earth, and it reminds me a lot of the North Shore, which it translates a lot. I mean, I feel like the North Shore is welcoming and it's very laid back. It's a good community. Again, if you're humble and you have a lot of work ethic, like you will make it on the North Shore, similar in Lafayette.
Right.
Yeah.
Love Lafayette. Just the culture. I mean, again, I'm trying to bring that over here and establish that, which also goes into like the other agents, not just Katie Real Estate, but any agent I meet, whether it's Ladder and Bloom, Keller Williams, anywhere else.
Yeah.
I want to have a great relationship with all those agents because why not? We're not in competition. There's enough to go around. Two, why don't we work together, make a relationship so that's best for our clients?
Well, I love that you're willing to do that. A lot of people are not.
No.
It becomes territorial. It becomes this weird thing. But how many times will you be across the table from that person in a negotiation? And that established relationship is huge.
Huge.
Having allies that crosses, brokerage boundaries or whatever you want to call it. That's huge because at the end of the day, this business is less of a competition and more of a collaboration to get deals across tables.
Yes.
Like, at the end of the day, in people who are like, I did an event one time for real estate investors, and it was at a brokerage. And the biggest feedback I got was from all these agents who wanted to either come learn for the topic and network, or they were investors too, were like, I can't go because if anyone sees me on a photo at this place, right? And so then I had to learn my lesson. I couldn't do anything that was like really big that was open for everyone.
Yeah.
Just because of that mindset. And I wish it didn't exist, but it does. And so what do you say for agents to that? Like, for example, like, what is your pitch to agents to try to tell them the value of doing that?
Well, I noticed that moving over here because in Lafayette, that goes to the culture of the people. Everyone's so nice and down to earth that wasn't really an issue. I mean, of course it is with some agents, but moving here, I didn't find that they were as friendly or willing to just talk. Like my strategy when I have a buyer looking at a home, I call that agent and I just talk to them. Like, hey, how's it going? I have a buyer interested. Like, is there any more information you can tell me about this? They're like, no, it's only MLS. Like,
Make an offer. Yeah.
okay, great. But like, we're people. Let's connect. Let's talk.
Right.
Because if we do get to negotiations, it could be easier for us. And then we get to the closing table. Who wants an awkward closing?
Yeah.
I know you've been in one before. It's not fun. So why not let's just be friends and be happy? Like there's just this very competitive vibe. And it's not every agent, but I've come across a few. So what I want to do is just like, I want agents to, I don't care what brokerage you're from. Let's just get together. Let's get along. Let's learn each other's strategies and help. This is for our clients. It's not for us.
And how many times have sellers built relationships with the buyers or the idea what they have about the buyers and say, I'll take a haircut, a couple $1,000s because I want it to go to this person.
Yes.
Right. And to be able to talk about that with the agents and say, like, this is the family that's moving into this house, right?
Yes.
It's a young family. They're like this and that about the house. This kid has this special need or something like that that will fit this house. That might bridge the gap between two different offers that you might not know about if you actually are willing to have conversations with agents.
Well,
Yes.
at the end of the day, though, too, think about it. How many times has someone lived in this house their whole life, maybe raised their kids or whatever, and a lot of people are hesitant because they're just like, I care about the house that I pass on to someone. Now, we can argue within the industry of like, obviously there's fair housing and there's things like, buyer love letters that we saw in 21 and 22 or whatever. But at the end of the day, though, it's a reminder that we show up as people. We're not just, numbers and name signatures on a form,
Right.
like an LREC form, right? Making an offer. But those things do matter. And especially when it comes down to whenever I do transactions. I've done transactions with dozens and dozens, maybe at this point over 100 agents in our region. And when I do these transactions, I'm like, look, same thing. I want to have that phone call. I want to talk because if we're not the right fit, if this is not going to be the right fit, why do the dance?
Yeah.
Like, why do the dance? And so it comes from when people are so like transactional, I think it's oftentimes tied to a scarcity mindset or there's a like an insecurity or there is a, something. And so it's huge. It's reminding people that there's something to go around for everyone. And at the end of the day, it goes back to my favorite book. By and large, it's not real estate related, but it's success related. It's called The Go-Giver by Bob Berg. Have you read it? If you're a reader, I'd be happy to get you one.
It's a great book.
So I've read it 20 plus times. So it's The Go-Giver by Bob Berg, and who I've had the pleasure of talking with since. I frequently reread it. It's written in a story format and it's short. So it's like, I tell everyone it's like a book anyone can read. But it's literally the 5 laws.
Sounds like for me.
Yeah. But it's the 5 laws of stratospheric success. And one of them is, the story is being told around a guy who like basically has these pressures where he has to perform and meet a deadline, but like he's nowhere near it. And so he's trying to seek out what can he do. So he's like, let me go to this, top guy. And really the laws of success has to do with, part of that is being willing to collaborate. And even in the story, he talks about how he's willing to collaborate with someone who's seen as his competition, and it opened up doors for more success for him. And so most people don't realize that, most people think the people at the top are competition, but they're really in collaboration. And people don't often realize that.
Yeah.
And so I love that mentality. Talk to me about what legacy do you want to leave on, let's talk about the agents that you manage. What do you want your legacy and your impact on them to be?
To hold yourself to be the most genuine and caring realtor. You don't have to be the smartest. That's fine. But if you treat people with respect and you're in it with your heart, then like that's what I want. I don't want to, obviously be a top producer, sell everything.
Yeah.
But it's so much more than that. Like I have found so much happiness and just grace from being in this industry because it's that's what it is. So if you're genuine and everything else falls into place after that. So I would say that, like, just to be genuine, to be respectful. That's definitely the legacy I want to leave.
I love that.
You definitely do that.
I try.
Yeah.
Thanks.
If your little girl decided she wanted to be a real estate agent, what would you tell her?
I would tell her absolutely. I would.
Yeah.
Because she is going to see how hard mama works, and if she wants to do it, then absolutely go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a friend, she was an old business coach, and she said that, especially for a woman, a mom, like there's seasons of life where you have to spend time with your kids, you focus on your kids,
Yes.
you prioritize things, and your balance, like you said, is going to shift throughout your career. And getting to grow up as a woman in business and be a mom and have your own personal goals and stuff. It's cool to see, like my partner Lauren, I mean, she's phenomenal at setting the priorities and boundaries, and hers looks different than my wife's, and then it looks different than yours. And so I'm excited to see you grow in St. Tammany Parish, because it's a great place. I've loved being here. I've been here probably twice as long as you have, and I've found a lot of success here, and I think you will too.
How long have you been here?
I moved here in 2015.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been about 9 years since I've been here. Well, I moved here. I started working here in 16, but I was living here in 15.
Okay.
But just the community welcomes you, and you have the mindset, the mentality. So I'm excited to see you grow here.
Yay, me too.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Well, thanks
So
for
if people want to get in touch with you, whether it's an agent who is interested in y'all's culture and what y'all have to offer, or it's buyer or seller, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
The good old fashioned cell phone. So my number is 985-353-3992, or my email address, which is rnorth@katierealestate.com.
And we can put
still
that in
kept
the
the
show
north in
notes.
there. Huh.
Yeah, we can put that in the show notes so that people can
Okay.
see it. Yeah.
Perfect.
You gave up the 318 number.
Oh, yes. So I gave it up when I went to Katie back in 2018 because Jim was like, you need a 337 number. You're going to make a lot of phone calls. I was like, okay, fine. So I gave that up then. And then I still have my 337 number, but also have a 985 number.
I still have the 318 number. I'm hard-headed.
Do you really?
I'm hard-headed, and I people, it takes a
Well,
couple,
everybody has your number. Like,
it takes.
I feel like it doesn't matter. Like maybe it matters, but like at the same time, I'm like, as long as I think it's because people don't. Let me say this way: we don't look at the number as long as it's saved in our phone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And people move
Yes.
around so much that like obviously there's a lot of people who might have a 318 or a 337 or whatever. And so it definitely has like people, 504 or 985, right? But at the same time, it's like these days, I mean, good luck rattling off your family members' phone numbers. I know most of them, but
I'm
these days.
persistent too. Like I'll if they don't answer my phone call, it's probably because they don't recognize the number. So I'll send them a text message and I'll leave a voicemail. I'm gonna get in touch. I'm not worried about that. But it does every once in a while. People will be like 318, but your number says Shreveport
Yes,
sometimes. And like
it does. Yeah.
So like it throws them off. But I work through it. But I respect the fact that somebody can change the number twice because I, like you said, don't remember numbers for nothing anymore. So if I had to remember the new numbers for myself, it would be bad. So
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes I question myself and I changed my number 12 years ago or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was fun.
This
Enjoyed
was
having you.
fun. I know.